Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be taking a look at the June repurchase review. So if you're new here, what we do is I go over everything that I featured on my channel in that month and whether I would purchase it again, any updates on the products and so forth. And then at the end we have my top 5. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're starting off with the Prada Beauty highlighters and the new lip balms. And I picked up the highlighters in shade 1 Champagne, which is here, and also number 2 in pink. And my complaint really is just that the colors are a bit warmer than I was expecting. I was hoping the pink would be a little bit cooler and so forth. These two shades, they're definitely distinct enough, but at the same time, they're kind of close to each other as well. So I would have preferred to see some cooler tones in the highlighters. The formula is fantastic. I love the formula. It has such a beautiful finish to it. You can make it either subtle, you can build it up, it's that gel powder kind of texture to it. And I think it's a really beautiful formula. So I don't regret purchasing these. I love the actual highlighters. I'm not incredibly thrilled with the shades, but I like them enough. So I would repurchase these again. If these are colors that do work well for you and you've got like a little bit of a warmer skin tone than I do, these are incredible. Totally worth it in my opinion, especially if you can get them on sale. It's a hefty price tag. So I would definitely try and get it on sale. Plus, you can purchase just the refill for these and, put them in a different palette as well. So these they just pop right out. Oh, I just think that. So overall, I would definitely repurchase these, but I do wish that they had some additional shades, some cooler tone shades than what is currently available. So hopefully they'll expand that line. I also purchased the 3 shades of the Prada Light lip balms that are available here in the US. So there is this beautiful soft red that's not available here. So hopefully that will come. So we have U019 here, and you can see that the finish on these, instead of being matte like the previous balms, is going to have more of a soft sheen. And this one is U018. And then we also have U016. And you can see that 18 and 16 there. They are both can be pinks. They look pretty similar on the lips. But basically your U016 is going to be cooler and U018 is going to be warmer. So, honestly though, they're pretty close on the lips if you have neutral coloring. If you're warm, I would lean towards the U018. If you're cooler in tone, I'd go for the U016. So overall though, I think it's a great formula. I love these. I personally love Prada Beauty for the most part, and I would definitely purchase these again. I also purchased the Addiction Tokyo Summer Collection. Now here in the US, we pretty much just received the Prism eyeshadows. And the Prism shadows, these are more of a sheer, it's a sheer shadow that works really well for layering with others. It's not necessarily a topper, think like sparkly topper. It's not necessarily like that. You can find some like that, but these are going to be more color-based. And you can build them up to get more pigment. So I'll show you this one sheer layer, and then let's build this up a bit so you can see the depth of color. You can see it definitely gets a bit deeper as you layer that. So this one here is 106 PR, which is Summer End, and all of the shadows were limited edition. They're currently still available on the Addiction Tokyo website. I'm actually wearing 3 of these right now on top of the green shade from one of the Guerlain Quads, which we'll get to in a little bit. So you can see, that they add something. You can see a bit of the blue. I have the blue on the inner corner here. And yeah, I personally really like them. I think they're a very versatile product. They're not gonna be super like shimmery or anything. And I think they're great. So I would purchase these again. One thing to note, they're not magnetic, but they are refillable. So they come like this. You can keep them like this, which honestly, that's how I usually keep mine. But there are some that I do depot and put in a palette, and they do sell palettes. They've got some really pretty palettes available just as part of this collection. They're a limited edition. So if you're interested in any of these shades and you want to put them in a palette, I'd recommend getting that versus the regular palette just to help kind of keep things apart in your collection. So overall, I would definitely pick these up again. The next video went over some of my Dior favorites for summer, some newer products, some older ones, but they were all repeats of things I've already said repurchase. So we're gonna pass over that one, and then we're gonna move on to the new YSL highlighters. And I'm actually wearing the purple one right now. I'm really enjoying these YSL highlighters. Now, between these and the Prada, I still think the Prada formula is a little bit better than the YSL formula. However, this is a beautiful formula as well. This is gonna be our 69. This is the one I have on right now. This is called Lavender Lust. You can see it's a really pretty lavender highlighter. And I have it just paired with bronzer from the Fara Homidi bronzer. And you can see, you know, that it can really work to kind of camouflage or cool things off. I have a little bit of a sunburn right now, so you can see a lot of the redness sort of peeking through. We also have Libertine Light, which is number 1, and that is going to be more of a white here. And I love how these have some shimmer, but they're not like a chunky glitter or anything. And I think they're really beautiful. So if you're trying to decide between these and the Prada, I think it's going to depend on the colors. So this is 3 Rosy Sand. Some of these appear perhaps a little bit more intense than others, but you know, I think really you gotta kind of have to go with the colors, because although I do like the Prada formula better, the colors, particularly the 69 and the number 1, those two work better for me. So if I had to choose between the YSL and the Prada, it would be the YSL specifically for the shades. They're really close formula wise. You know, I give a nod to the Prada as being a little bit better, but they're close. So I would say, you know, they're comparable still. It's like A+ and A-, you know, so they're still like in that top category there. So I think they're really close. I'd definitely purchase both of these again. But if I had to only pick 1 or 2 of the highlighters, it would be 69 and then this one over those and the Prada, just because those colors work better for me. I also purchased the 2 most recent shades of the YSL Make Me Blush liquid blushes, and I think these are really nice. I personally am very happy with these. We'll put these ones right here. We'll just swatch this one here. Actually, let's just go ahead and do both. So this one here is a nice kind of like a bronzy mauve, and then that one is going to be number 80, and number 74 here, this is more of a coral shade here. And yeah, I just think they are really beautiful blushes. I love the formulas of these, and I think these are some great colors. We are seeing colors just like this come out in a variety of products. So we're actually going to be getting to those right now. We've got the new Chantecaille Cheek Gelées. So I purchased the YSL blushes again. The Chantecaille Cheek Gelées, they were gifted to me, but these are, you know, the Cheek Gelées are a product that I have bought many times over the years. I guess not many, because they last so long. But, you know, Vibrant has always been one of my favorites. I actually was in need of replacing them, so I don't have any of the older shades. My favorite, though, of the new shades is Thrill, which is this one here. And you can see this is going to be more of a coppery bronze, and it's such a beautiful shade. You can really sheer this out. Let me show you what that looks like. And you know, I can actually use this more as like a bronzer blush, a bronzer. So I think it's just a really nice product. We have a couple other shades here. This one here is Euphoric, and this one made me think a bit of the new YSL coral shade that we just looked at. Now you can see that there is a little bit of a difference between the two of them, and the Chantecaille is a little bit more pink, but they're very, very close to each other, so I don't think it's necessary to have both of them. But between the Chantecaille Cheek Gelées, Thrill is my favorite, followed by Euphoric. And then the last shade here is Delight, which is, it's a pretty light shade. I'm gonna put this one over here. And you can see it's also fairly similar to the YSL, except it has this like gold iridescence to it. And so I think this is a nice look. It's just a little bit different because we have that gold reflect to it. and it's lighter. So this shears out a lot more. You could even use this as a highlighter if you shear it out enough. So I think it's a nice product, but my favorites would be Thrill and Euphoric. Now, Chantecaille has always had some great glosses. They did gift me their 2 newest shades. The glosses have been reformulated, so they now have a doe foot applicator instead of a little brush. And the 2 newest shades, we have Glimmer and Gleam. So these are basically like topper shades, and I'm actually wearing both of them right now on top of one of the Violette FR lip stains. So this one here is Gleam, and you can see it's going to be sheer with a champagne golden sheen to it. And then we have Glimmer, which is a bit more pink, but we've got multicolored shimmer in there as well. It's just with more pink in it. But you can see as I move my hand, you can see a little bit more of a color shift. Personally, I've always enjoyed their glosses. They gifted these to me, but I do really like them, and I would purchase these myself. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at a couple of the shades, you know, to purchase. So Pretty is one that I'm looking at right now, and, you know, possibly another one. So yeah, I would buy those again, or I would buy those myself. Now, speaking of the Violette FR, that's going to be our next product here. These are the lip nectars. I purchased all 4 of them, and I'm wearing this one right now underneath the Chantecaille glosses. So I applied this, and then I blotted it, so I had more of that sheer stain. And then I put the glosses on top. And this one here is going to be more of your... It's almost like a burnt raspberry in a way, kind of like a soft currant. This is called Dahlia Noir. I labeled mine, so this does not come on there. But yeah, I really like these. I've been wearing these actually quite a bit. They've become a go-to for me this summer, so I definitely purchased them again. My only complaint is that all 4 of the shades lean warm, and I'd love to see some cooler shades in here. And I do want to mention that if you lick your lips after applying these, there is a little bit of a taste. I usually just avoid doing that, but it is there, so I do want to mention that. Brand new favorite of mine, the Fara Homidi bronzer. I've got this on with the YSL highlighter on my cheeks. I did not wear any blush. This is the shade Bois, and I love this. So this is a powder bronzer, and I just think it is a stunning bronzer. It's got a little bit of rosiness in there, which works well for my skin tone. We've got some really beautiful shades in there. The formula is great. It stays put all day, and you know, it has replaced the Gucci bronzer for me. I'm not somebody who bronzes every day, but when I bronze, this is gonna be it. This is my favorite. Then I shared this little Sephora palette. This is called Ethereal Lilac, and I picked this up during the Sephora sale, and I just thought the colors were so pretty. It's a really pretty palette. I don't love this first shade here, which is basically a glitter topper. I love the color, but it's just a bit messy. You can see just even in the pan here. So I don't love the actual formula that they used for that, but I love the color. I love the effect. All of these shades are stunning. They're a little bit softer and less intense than Danessa Myricks, but what was this? I think this was like $6 or something. So you really can't beat the price. You know, the packaging's kind of cool because you can actually put these into a big palette as well. These parts all slide out. So you can see you can slide out your mirror here, and you can, you know, slide this out to mix and match things and so forth. So I think it's cute. And for $6, or I don't know, it might have been $10, but you can't really beat this. So especially when you get the Sephora products on sale. So totally worth it in my opinion. I think it's just a really nice set of colors. I picked up 3 or 4 of these in different colors. This is the only one I've used so far, but I really like it. Another product I've been using a ton is the Estee Lauder Double Wear Stay in Place Concealer. So I have 0.5C, and this is a really nice neutral, buildable, like medium to full coverage concealer. You know, I say that the color could be a little bit cooler. It's pretty neutral for something in the cool range, but I think it works well for me. You know, if it were 100% perfect, it'd be a little bit lighter and perhaps a little bit cooler, but I think it's a good match, and I think that it works really well. So I have it on today. I've got some dark circles today, but I compare the finish to the Chanel Sublimage concealer, which I love. That one's a little bit dewier on the skin. This is more matte, but in terms of coverage level, I think they're pretty comparable. And this is a little bit more affordable than the Chanel Sublimage, which, by the way, does last a long time. If you buy that, I'd recommend depotting a little bit and working with that at a time to keep your big container fresh. So those were all items I'd purchase again. Then we move on to the new Guerlain collection, the Majestic Feathers. So this is the Birdie Beige palette. I really wanted to compare this to Imperial Moon. My biggest complaint, you know, recently, for a while now, Guerlain has replaced kind of their newest eyeshadow formula. You know, when they came back with their eyeshadow quads, they had this great, more putty-like formula that was just really, it was a little bit more innovative, a little bit more unique. It performed really well. And then recently, at least the last year, they've switched to this more like generic basic formula, which I don't love. So this is like a warmer version of Imperial Moon. For me personally, I prefer Imperial Moon, so I didn't really need this. I think it's a nice palette, but considering the formula is just basic, it's not necessary. And then the other palette is Emerald Feather. This is the eyeshadow I have on right now. So I have this all over the lid with some of the Addiction Tokyo on top. This one I actually like better than Birdie Beige. It's very similar to like Dior Jungle and things like that. So you might already have something like this in your collection. Again, the formula is nothing special, but I do really like the greens in here. And I like how this is kind of like a soft olive, yet we've got this deeper green here, yet it doesn't have too much blue or too much yellow in it, which is what we typically see in those deeper greens. We usually see more of the bluish green. And, you know, I think that's kind of why I like this palette, or the greens. So in my opinion, based on the formulas for these eyeshadows, they're not really worth the cost. So I wouldn't purchase them again for that. However, if I were to choose between these two palettes, it would definitely be the Emerald Feather because it's a bit more unique compared to the Birdie Beige. And I do like it. So I don't regret purchasing it, but you know, if I'm trying to keep a more conscious collection, then I would probably pass on both of these and go for, you know, a palette that perhaps has a better formula like the Cle de Peau palettes, or, you know, I have the old Dior Jungle, which was awesome. But I'd say that the newer Dior formula, it can be hit or miss. And on some of those more in the permanent line of palettes, those are kind of comparable in terms of quality to the Guerlain. So I think that the Dior is a nice alternative to this because it is at a slightly lower price point to it with very similar shades. But again, you know, if you're looking for the best quality, I think you can find, you know, similar shades with other brands. Now, I passed on the Meteorites because as much as I really love that color story, I don't like the new scent. So I'm not buying any more Meteorites, but I did purchase 2 of the new lipsticks. So we've got, I think the cases are gorgeous, by the way. We've got this Peacock Feather, and then this one is called, I think, Songbird. And we've got a couple new shades here. So this one here is 777V. And let's put this one right here. And I just think it's a really beautiful, kind of like a bright fuchsia red. And it does lean cool. So just something to note there. And then we also have 530V, which is a really nice rose. But you can see it's like a deep rose. And these are going to be matte. I think they're really nice. I'm still personally not too happy with Guerlain over the whole case changing fiasco, but I couldn't resist these two, so I did pick these up. Now, someone asked if I had the 530 in the older ones. You can see we had these gorgeous cases. These are still some of my favorites. And I do. This is 530M from the older version of the lipstick. So let's put this one right here next to the new 530. I should take this off. You can see that the colors are very, very close. The differences are enough that you could account them to different batches over the years. However, the new one is going to be cooler in tone overall than the previous one, which had a little bit more orange to it in the base. So you can see there is going to be a difference between those. Then I picked up a couple of the new Byredo balms, which I really like these. So this one here is Chain Reaction. This one's pH adaptive, and it actually turns cooler on my lips, but it's not going to be that bright fuchsia pink that we always had when pH activated products kind of started out. So I think this is a really pretty one. Then I also have a soft red one, and you know, it's pretty pigmented. I think these are comfortable, they're nice, you know, I think they're a really nice product, and now they are refillable. So they've got some additional shades. I don't know if I'll pick up any additional ones, but I'm happy with the two I bought, and I'd pick them up again. I think if I had to choose between the two, oh, it's really tough. Honestly, I'd pick up both shades that I have again. I really like both of them. The red's a nice soft red, you know, for just a touch more pigment, but this is such a great everyday shade. So yeah, I would get those again. I also picked up a couple Bobbi Brown blushes. So I picked up the original Pot Rouge, and this is their pale pink, number 11. This is the original, you know, cream blush that they had. I think it's really nice. This will give you a bit of a sheen. But what I really love is their new Velvet Whipped blushes. So this is called the Velvet Matte. This shade here is Soft Plum, and I really like these. They remind me a lot of the Shiseido Whipped blushes that have been discontinued, or the Phytosurgeons. They're velvety, they're smooth, they blend out beautifully. You know, I think they're fantastic. So I do plan on picking up more of these in the future. I think I'll probably grab a couple more in the fall. And yeah, I'm really happy with those. So fantastic, in my opinion. I would definitely buy those again. And I love both formulas, but my favorite is going to be the Velvet. Then we have this Sarah Creal highlighters, which I love these because they are so sheer. They have this nice consistency to them that, you know, it's like a balm. It shears out. This is their deepest one in Op-Ed, but I can wear it if I shear it out. So I think that's really awesome. Let me just swatch all three of them. This one here is the medium shade, which is Extra Extra. And, you know, I just think this is such a great formula because it's not sticky, it's not tacky, it stays put. This one's called This Just In. This is our lightest shade. And yeah, it gives a nice sheen to it without being glittery. And these were gifted, by the way, but I would definitely purchase these myself. I think my two favorite is the This Just In, which would be my like everyday one. But I really like the Op-Ed if I'm going for more of that bronze look. You know, adding that with a bronzer, I think is just a gorgeous summer look. And I just think the formula on these is kind of special. If you've tried the cream bronzer from Sarah Creal, it's going to be like the same type of formula. And yeah, I really like it. And then we have the Nars Hot Escape Light Palette. And I really like this for like all over. If you're traveling, this is a great like palette to take with you. And I just like mixing and matching these shades. I think this is a nice buy. Is it a favorite of mine? It's not. But I think, you know, this is one of those great like travel palettes, or like if you're going for a minimalist look, you know, this is just such a great summer palette in my opinion. So it's definitely something great to have on hand. I'd buy it again. I did purchase it during the Sephora sale, so I'd recommend getting it on sale if possible. But I think it's a really great palette. I love the colors that they put in here. So I'm very happy with it, and I'd get it again. And then I also mentioned this Cle de Peau. This is their SPF protective lip treatment. I have bought these many times over the years. This particular one was gifted, but it's just a great lip balm. I use this a ton, you know, as like a lip primer. You know, I'll put it on in the morning before I do my makeup and everything. And yeah, I think it's fantastic. During the summer, I tend to use it a lot. So it's a really nice product. The other new item that I had this month is the Iris and Romeo lip gloss in Dawn, which I love. And it's actually in my purse downstairs because I carry it with me everywhere. So I've been using that a ton. And that's everything new this month. So let's go ahead and move on to my top 5. And I have to say, you know, one of those items is going to be that Iris and Romeo gloss in Dawn because it's just been going everywhere with me. So that's going to be one of them. The YSL highlighter in 69, Lavender Lust. This one's also gonna make the cut. So this, I love the shade, and a lot of times we've seen these purple highlighters, like Dior has come out with purple highlighters how many times now? They always end up getting hard pan. This doesn't feel like it's gonna do that, and the formula is nice and silky. I love it. So that's definitely there. The Bobbi Brown Whipped Blush is going to be there. So these aren't in order, but that's my number 3. We also have the Fara Homidi bronzer in Bois. So that's going to be 4. And then my last item, is always so hard when I get to the end. I have to go with the Creal highlighter. This just in, that's going to be my go-to. It's really tough. It was between that, the Viola FR Balms, and the Estee Lauder concealer, but I love that Creal highlighter. So yeah, you know, that's kind of where we are on my top 5 this month. I'd love to know your thoughts if you've tried any of these products. Let me know what you think, how they worked out for you. And please share what you've been loving this past month in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope I will see you very soon, and have a wonderful day.